I think we have a bit of a problem with misinformation within inside of the community. It was a bit of a problem a while back, but it's just gotten a lot worse as time has gone by. There's currently a pretty big event going on Twitter after a pretty popular theorist that a lot of people trusted ended up being outed as the piece of information that they'd revealed wasn't accurate at all. It was a lie, a hoax, intended to try and keep the community calm, especially about how things have changed over the years, with mentions of characters like the Mimic and things like that being added to the series. They had good intentions, I'm sure, but at the end of the day, regardless of intention, lying is still lying, and there shouldn't be any form of defending towards that kind of behavior. I've been preaching this for a while now, especially considering that in the past I've made some of these mistakes myself, especially when it comes to utilizing certain pieces of information to try and understand things going on inside the Five Nights at Freddy's series. But what a lot of people don't tend to actually think about is that sometimes theorists can lie to you. That sometimes the people that you put your trust into understanding this series, to understanding everything, can all just be a ruse. A lot of people have pointed this out with other theorists throughout the years. Most notably, you've seen it a lot with a certain popular theorist that happened to retire last year. Most notably, certain piece of information that to him genuinely seemed to be the truth. But the truth is that was simply just his own opinion, presented as fact. And it's been a mistake that a lot of people have done. See, I don't think that the issue is particularly just a private conversation between one and two people trying to talk about what's going on inside of this series and saying something as a confirmed fact. If I were to sit here and have a conversation with a lot of theorists that I happen to be friends with, I could simply sit there and talk with them and talk about how it's pretty obvious that Bite Victim died first, or that this or that happens to be canon. And because it's just an interaction between the two of us, it doesn't really matter whether or not the information that's being presented is factual or not, because there's no sort of expectation of trust here. We're just two people. We're not some sort of, there's no influence being put on there. You're not some higher power giving information to somebody that's of a lower status. Though a lot of people treat theorist accounts like that. Not just theorist accounts, not just big theorist accounts either, but some people do take certain words by people that they've grown to trust, people that they've gotten used to, as some sort of scripture, like what they're saying is matter of fact, that anything they say has to be the truth, when in reality, not everything is as simple as that. I've tried my best to make sure that when these sorts of situations happen with me, I make sure to try and nip it in the bud immediately. I don't like lying to you, let alone do I like spreading misinformation to the rest of you. And so I can say with confidence that even if I've never said this piece of information out loud, I at the very least need to make sure that it is something that you, the Five Nights at Freddy's community, are aware about. Certain lines, Entom had been telling everyone that there was metadata for an early copy of one of the Tales from the Pizzaplex books, which seemingly placed the book's creation as far back as 2019, but thanks to someone else getting their hands on an early copy's metadata, it was proven that that piece of information was fabricated by Entom himself. Rather, it was a hoax created by some members of the Five Nights at Freddy's community in an attempt to try and end the book debate. Which, in doing this, they have undoubtedly ended up causing a lot of damage towards the argument of Tales games. Of course, just because this one piece of information has been debunked as a hoax doesn't magically mean the entire Tales games argument falls apart, especially considering all of the information we've been given as of recent, the mentions of characters like Tiger Rock showing up inside of the games and Edwin Murray, which add a lot of merit to the belief that at least a lot of the characters and events within these books do take place in the game's timeline. It does end up causing a bit of trust in this community to get a bit weaker, because a lot of people trusted that individual who promoted this idea, and those people went to tell their friends and their viewers. And there's no doubt in my mind that there are creators out there that have used this piece of information. I can't think off the top of my head whether or not I have used it myself, but I know a lot of my friends have. And I know that this is undoubtedly going to end up causing a bit of rift between the audience and the creator, because this is a pretty big thing. Lying like this for 3 years is insane. It really is. It's hard to trust someone when you've been told a piece of information for a long time by them, only to find out that that information was a lie. Now, again, as I've mentioned, I've done this stuff myself. Certain mentions from things like using the graphic novels instead of the Silver Eyes trilogy before, things like that. But I don't think I've ever made a mistake as big as this one. And I hope that it's a lesson to everyone, including myself, going forward, of just how careful we have to be with inside this community. And not just that, but needing to confront this issue between audience and creator. At the end of the day, I am a theorist. I'm not Scott Cawthon. Everyone that you watch on videos, Toast, ID's Fantasy, John FNAF, everyone, including my friends that I've made recently, Nara Raven, T-Dreads, Cryonide, Unwithered Truth, everyone, we're all just theorists. We don't know the truth. We're just trying to find the story that fits best with the pieces of information that we've been given from this series. And with it, we have tried to put together the most what makes sense story to give to all of you, so that way, maybe you can enjoy this series a little bit more. However, at the end of the day, these are just stories. There is nothing that me or any of these other creators have said that would be 100% indefinitely the truth of what's going on with inside of the series. We have no way of knowing that. We might have made a little lucky strides with inside of the community, and I genuinely believe we have. There have been a lot of pieces of information that together we've been able to find. But at the end of the day, we are just people. We're humans. We're just trying to understand everything like the rest of you. And so, that needs to be confronted. That, at the end of the day, we can be wrong. My biggest piece of advice to anyone within the Five Nights at Freddy's community is to do this. Go to the source. At the end of the day, we are just looking at a piece of information that anyone else can gain access to. All of the games are for free, able to be watched through YouTube playthroughs that are everywhere throughout YouTube. There are creators like Ozone who have done audiobooks of all of the books within inside of this series. You can also find them freely available on the Internet Archive and other places. Go to the source and find the information yourself. Because the truth is, theorists can't account for everything. There are plenty of pieces of information in this series that I'm confident have snuck their way in that will end up being revealed to be a hoax. I've had a few scares actually recently when I ended up finding out that Scott Cawthon actually deleted an awful lot of his own Steam posts in the past. It made me recognize that a lot of pieces of information that we've been using over and over as theorists could very much not even exist anymore, let alone may have never existed. There have been multiple forged emails, there have been multiple forged Steam posts, multiple forged Reddit posts. You cannot trust everything that you see. This is the internet. And when it comes to understanding the Five Nights at Freddy's series, the only one that you can trust is directly the piece of information that we're told by Scott himself. And so, if you're trying to understand the series as best as you can, please verify all of the information that you see by either looking into the games and books yourselves, or by looking at the comments that Scott Cawthon has made throughout the years. That is the only thing that I can ask of you. Because all me and other theorists can do is simply give you an interpretation of the pieces of information that we have seen. We are not intended to be used as Wikipedia that understands every piece of information that has ever existed. We're simply interpreting the pieces of information that we know. With that being said, please stay safe. Make sure to verify the pieces of information that you know. And be careful who you trust. Chances are, if somebody tries to get you to go against the creator himself, they likely are not a good source of information. Matane.